Not a day goes by with not massive news out of the United States, and the best in the business is the wonderful Megyn Kelly. Her show has been amazing the past couple of weeks, and it's so good to be able to see her face-to-face via the internet. Yet again, our favourite time of the week is to talk to her. Hello, mate.
Wow, lots happening.
Just like all day, every day. So let's talk about JD Vance. You did an excellent interview with him where basically you kind of offered the off-ramps if he wanted to take it with the crazy cat lady stuff and said he doubled down. Also, correctly, you showed some of the context. That he's not just talking about random childless people. He's talking about the types of people who end up running institutions, politics, media, but of course all of that context doesn't matter. It's just anyone without a child is a crazy cat lady. Outrage ensues. CNN has another bucket of news stuff that's happened in the past couple of days. Let's cut to the chase. You spoke to him, you looked into his eyes the same way that I do you now. Is he going to make it?
Yeah, he's going to make it. Trump doesn't backtrack on big decisions like who his vice presidential running mate is going to be. And let me tell you, I've been through this long enough to know no matter who Trump selected, they'd be going through this. They would have found plenty of dirt on Doug Burgum, on Glenn Youngkin, on Nikki Haley, on Ron DeSantis. Any of them would have been demonized in whatever particular way that they had a weakness on. And this is, as weaknesses go, this one's kind of pathetic. He said some provocative things on cable. He stirred the you-know-what to get attention on an issue and was kind of, pardon the term, catty about making his point. He's not the first to do that on cable news. Look at the way Trump talks. And he got elected president. This is not a deal breaker for JD Vance. The Democrats don't have a lot on JD, and they do consider him a massive threat given his genuine ties to Appalachia and the white working class. And they're trying to do their best to stir up hatred for him. Hatred. They just sent out a tweet saying he hates women. And why are they doing that? Because they've got to drive up their numbers with the women vote. And they're really, really hoping that Americans will forget that it is their party that's in favor of making women get punched in the face by male boxers masquerading as females, by making our little girls go into locker rooms and see penises everywhere, by letting 14-year-old girls have their breasts chopped off when they express a little gender confusion, but really what's underlying it is depression. That's their party. And so they really want us to get upset over childless cat lady comments that JD said on a cable news show, leading us to believe he hates women and not them, not the ones who are actually chopping off the breasts of young girls who might be going through a bout of temporary blues that come with the onset of puberty. It's insane. And they have a compliant media who will push these lies as they push lies that, JD Vance, he's reversed his position on many, many issues from just 8 years ago. And they'll trot out some trans friend of JD's from law school saying he's reversed himself on everything just for money and power, without calling to attention the fact that Kamala Harris has reversed herself in the past 24 hours on at least 4 massive policy positions that would actually affect millions of Americans. It's incredibly frustrating, but it's our media, and it's a challenge that Republicans face every election cycle.
Now, I think that sort of increasingly, as we always know, the media sort of lent to the left, but they lost their brains post-16, right? So they thought, by treating both candidates as equal, we failed. So therefore, we must have this position where one is elevated to saintly status while the other is never allowed to get out of first gear. Now, that was always the plan on Donald Trump. Then a whole bunch of stuff obviously changed, including their lies about Biden becoming exposed. But your sense as somebody who's seen the game from lots of different angles and had success at all of those different things, is the power of the machine as effective as it was in 20 or even attempted to be in 16? Because it feels to me like even in the New York Times poll, the number one source of people's news in that poll in the US is social media. Now, by extension, I would suggest that means YouTube shows and lots of other things that are not the traditional newspaper TV show. Do you think that we're dealing with a different market that is trying to play the same game?
Look, they don't have anywhere near the power that they used to. But if you're talking about activating the Democratic base, they are still very powerful, very powerful. I mean, it was essentially the news media that got Joe Biden out of office, or at least out of his second term candidacy and potentially out of office. We're not sure who's running the country right now. I'll get back to you. So they do have a lot of power when it comes to Democrats, and they're exercising it. They're energizing their base. They're trying to reach out to those, independents are kind of split, maybe 55-45 Republican Democrat as a rule, leaning. And they're trying to get those 45 incentivized to go out and vote for Kamala and try to rewrite all of her history. So you can't write them off as feckless yet. But yeah, I mean, compared to what they used to be in terms of influencing the entire country, they're a shadow of their former selves. It's actually really kind of fun to watch them express frustration at the loss of, holding the national narrative over these massive conversations. They can't stand the fact that JD Vance came to me, for example, to have his come to Jesus interview after those cat lady comments blew up. They hate having to cite someone like me in the New York Times, which they did, because it's an admission that they don't have a monopoly on power anymore. And I noticed, like, the Wall Street Journal, they did a podcast about JD's comments. Did they cite his interview with me, in which we discussed? No, they waited until he sat down with a Fox property, Trey Gowdy, on Fox News, and cited that, because they really don't want to come to grips with the fact that their old model of business is dying. It's hanging on by a thread. But as I say, within Democrat circles, it's still alive and well.